The emergency medical team rushes Ambassador Reyes through the pristine corridors of the space station, leaving a trail of crimson droplets floating in the microgravity. Carl Way follows, his face an expressionless mask that betrays nothing of the calculations running through his mind. The station's commander, a veteran astronaut named Hiroshi Tanaka, intercepts him at the medical bay. What just happened? Tanaka demands, his voice barely controlled. Those were supposed to be peaceful diplomatic talks. Way glances at the medical team working frantically to stabilize Reyes. They were never here for peace, he says quietly. This was reconnaissance disguised as diplomacy. Tanaka's face pales. We need to contact Earth immediately. The UN Security Council. No, Way interrupts, taking the commander by the elbow and guiding him to a more private corner. What I'm about to tell you exists outside normal command structures. Ambassador Reyes just authorized Protocol Omega. The words mean nothing to Tanaka, but the gravity with which they're delivered sends a chill through him. What does that mean? Way removes a small device from his pocket, a communication tool unlike the standard issue equipment. Its surface glows with symbols that seem to shift and change as it activates. It means that for 2 centuries, we've been preparing for this moment, he says, entering a complex sequence. The visitors aren't the first of their kind to find Earth. Outside the medical bay windows, the Trevection ship accelerates away from the station, its crystalline hull shimmering as it prepares for faster-than-light travel. The injured crew members watch with a mixture of fear and anger as their attackers flee beyond Earth's ability to pursue, or so the Trevections believe. In geosynchronous orbit, a seemingly ordinary communications satellite receives Way's encrypted signal. Within seconds, similar satellites across Earth's orbital space activate previously dormant systems. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in a facility hidden since the early days of lunar exploration, automated systems begin powering up banks of quantum computers and advanced sensor arrays. Back on the station, Reyes regains consciousness momentarily, her eyes finding ways through the medical bay window. She mouths words that only he can understand. Tell them it's time. In the Kuiper Belt beyond Neptune, where official records show only automated research probes, 5 massive hangar doors slide open, revealing ships unlike anything publicly acknowledged in human technological development. Their hulls bear the insignia of Earth's United Defense Force, a symbol never seen in public. On the bridge of the lead vessel, UVS Nemesis, Admiral Kwan receives the alert during a routine training exercise with her crew. Her expression doesn't change as she reviews the information. Years of preparation have made this moment feel almost inevitable. Navigation, she calls out. Plot intercept course based on the quantum wake signature. Weapons, bring systems to full readiness. Communications, inform the fleet. Operation First Response is now active. As the Trevection ship vanishes into FTL, Captain Zarak relaxes in his command chair. Primitive species, he comments to his second-in-command. Their technology is barely past atmospheric flight. Their weapons couldn't penetrate our shields. Should we request additional forces for subjugation? The officer asks. Zarak considers this briefly. No need. We'll return with a standard integration fleet in 30 cycles. They'll have time to mourn their dead and realize resistance is pointless. By then, their world leaders will be begging to join the hierarchy. The officer nods in agreement. Neither of them notices the quantum distortion sensors registering a momentary anomaly, as if something is following their supposedly untraceable passage through space. Colonel Way's revelation stuns the assembled military leaders. The Russian General Petrov is the first to recover his composure. Are you saying that every major nation has been participating in this conspiracy for 2 centuries? He demands, his accent thickening with emotion. Why gestures to the wall where emblems from dozens of nations glow softly. Not a conspiracy, General. A pact. The Sentinel Accord of 1825. Originally signed by just 7 nations, it has grown to include every spacefaring country. Your great-grandfather was one of the signatories when Russia joined in 1922. Petrov falls silent, processing this information against family stories that suddenly take on new meaning. The American Admiral Jackson studies the technical readouts of the Hidden Fleet. These capabilities, they're at least 50 years beyond what's publicly acknowledged. How have you kept this secret? Compartmentalization. Why answers? Typing commands that bring up profiles of key historical figures. Tesla, Einstein, Oppenheimer, Sakharov, all were partial members of Project Watchman. Each contributed without knowing the full scope. We introduced advanced technology gradually, always maintaining the public illusion of normal scientific progress. The display shifts to show a massive underground facility beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. Thousands of personnel move through corridors carved into the bedrock, maintaining equipment and monitoring sensors deployed throughout the solar system. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959 wasn't just about scientific cooperation, Y explains. It created our primary research and development hub, outside national territories and prying eyes. A Brazilian general examines the quantum communication network spanning the solar system. And funding? The resources required for this scale of operation. The world's black budgets aren't just hiding conventional military projects. Y responds. Every nation contributes a percentage of their defense spending. The global microchip industry, the internet, satellite technology, all were developed first for Watchmen before being released in simplified forms for public use. As they absorbed the magnitude of the secret, a Japanese admiral named Tanaka addresses the central question. You said this has been maintained for 2 centuries. What exactly happened with these? Krell. Wei's expression darkens. He activates a secure data crystal, and the room fills with 3-dimensional images reconstructed from historical records. A ship of organic-looking design landing in a remote forest. Strange beings with elongated limbs and translucent skin moving through primitive human settlements at night. Abducted humans in containment pods, subjected to clinical examination. They came in 1821, Y explains. Small scout vessels, testing our world for suitability. They abducted hundreds before a coordinated resistance formed. The display shows farmers and soldiers from multiple nations surrounding a damaged Krell vessel, armed with muskets and primitive explosives. A ship was disabled in northern Europe during an electrical storm. For the first time, humans captured living extraterrestrials. Through a combination of improvised communication methods and interrogation, our ancestors learned the truth. We were being evaluated as potential livestock. The room falls silent as the implications sink in. The captured technology gave us a glimpse of what existed beyond our world, Y continues. Not just the Krell, but entire civilizations that viewed less advanced species as resources rather than equals. Our ancestors made a choice that would shape human development for centuries. Unite in secret, advance rapidly, and prepare for the inevitable return. The Indian General Singh finally speaks. And now they've returned. Not the Krell, but their masters. Y nods grimly. The doctrine that guided Project Watchman was born from necessity. No witnesses, because any alien who discovers Earth's true capabilities must never report back. No mercy, because in the face of existential threat, Hesitation means extinction. The Nemesis and its 4 companion vessels push deeper into interstellar space, their quantum drives leaving barely perceptible ripples in the fabric of reality. On the main bridge, Admiral Quan studies the tactical display where the Trevection ship appears as a pulsing red marker against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. Tactical assessment, Quan requests, her voice calm despite the gravity of their mission. Lieutenant Commander Rigi, the weapons officer, responds immediately. The Trevection vessel is a diplomatic variant of their standard cruiser class. Limited weaponry, enhanced communication suite, reinforced shields. Crew complement estimated at 42, based on thermal signatures. Could they detect our approach? Negative, Admiral. Their sensor technology relies primarily on gravitational distortion patterns. Our phased quantum drives remain outside their detection range. Quan nods satisfied. She turns to the science officer, a brilliant physicist named Dr. Eliza Okafor. What have we learned about their propulsion technology? Okafor brings up a detailed analysis on the main screen. Their FTL method creates a localized subspace bubble that allows them to exceed light speed without relativistic effects. Efficient but limited in maximum velocity. Our own drives are approximately 23% faster. This information draws murmurs from the bridge crew. For many, this is their first confirmation that humanity's secret technological development has actually surpassed alien capabilities in some areas. And their weapon systems, Quan continues. Energy-based, similar to our phase cannons but less refined. Their targeting systems appear optimized for large-scale engagements rather than precision strikes. A slight smile crosses Okafor's face. They've clearly never needed to fight an enemy with comparable technology. The pursuit continues for days, with the human vessels maintaining a perfect trailing formation just beyond Trevection detection range. The crew establishes a routine, but tension remains high. For generations, they have trained for this scenario, but now that it's actually happening, the weight of being humanity's first line of defense against an interstellar threat is palpable. During a quiet moment in her quarters, Admiral Quan reviews historical records from Project Watchman's archives. She studies the faces of those who came before her, the men and women who maintained the secret watch over 2 centuries, waiting for the day that has finally arrived. Her contemplation is interrupted by an urgent communication. Admiral to the bridge, target vessel has altered course. When Quan arrives, the tactical display shows the Trevection ship decelerating near a massive gas giant with iridescent rings. They're dropping out of FTL, Admiral, reports the navigation officer, positioning themselves in the magnetic shadow of the 7th moon. Standard evasive protocol, Quan observes. They're checking for pursuit before proceeding to their home territory. She considers their options, knowing this moment will define humanity's first interstellar engagement. A direct confrontation risks destroying the vessel, but with it, the intelligence they need about Trevection civilization. Tactical, prepare precision strikes on their engine and weapon systems only. Navigation, plot approach vectors that will prevent their escape. Communications, prepare to broadcast on all frequencies they'd used. The bridge crew moves with practiced efficiency, implementing her commands. The 5 human vessels split into a pincer formation, approaching the gas giant from different vectors to eliminate any escape route. As they close in, Quan takes a moment to address her crew. What happens here will be remembered for generations. We are not simply seeking revenge for our murdered diplomats. We are ensuring Earth's survival against a threat that believes us defenseless. She straightens her uniform. Prepare for engagement. Let's show them how humanity fights. Commander Chen follows a group of Trevection administrators through the crowded corridors of Outpost Kelbrax, mimicking their distinctive three-step gait perfectly. The nanite disguise itches against her skin, but the discomfort is trivial compared to the stakes of their mission. She slips into a maintenance junction where Lieutenant Rivera waits, disguised as a member of the station's engineering caste. His eyes widen slightly at her approach, the only indication he recognizes her. Security protocols are tighter than expected, Chen whispers. They're running identity verification scans at all primary junctions. Rivera nods. The captured credentials are holding, but we've had to adjust our timeline. Park and Okonkwo have reached the residential sectors. Zhang is accessing the communication hub. Chen checks the small device concealed in her palm, a quantum-entangled communicator linked directly to the Nemesis. We have 18 hours before the Admiral expects contact. Let's make them count. They separate, each heading toward different objectives. Chen navigates to the commerce sector, where representatives from various species conduct trade under Trevection supervision. The diversity of alien life forms is staggering, floating gas-filled beings that change colors to communicate, insectoid creatures moving with perfect synchronization, crystalline entities that seem to phase between solid and liquid states. She observes the subtle hierarchies at play. Species with more advanced technology receive preferential treatment, while those classified as pre-spacefaring are confined to menial roles. Despite the appearance of a cooperative alliance, the stratification is clear. At a data access terminal, Chen uses the captured credentials to review commercial manifests. What she discovers sends a chill through her. Earth is listed as Resource World P137, scheduled for initial resource assessment in the next standard cycle. The manifest includes equipment designed for biological sampling and specimen containment. Meanwhile, Zhang reaches the communication hub disguised as a technical specialist. The vast chamber houses thousands of crystalline data storage units, each containing information about worlds the Trevections have surveyed. Using a specialized tool developed from reverse-engineered Krell technology, he begins extracting data about the broader political structure of the civilization they've encountered. In the residential sector, Lieutenant Park witnesses a disturbing interaction. A group of Trevection security officers confronts members of a species he doesn't recognize, small beings with luminescent skin and 4 arms. The security officers speak in harsh tones, forcing the smaller aliens to their knees. Your quota of processed minerals was insufficient, the lead officer declares. The Concordat cannot tolerate inefficiency. The new tunnels collapsed, one of the smaller aliens protests. We lost 17 workers. We needed time tow. The response is a shock rod pressed against the alien's neck, eliciting a cry of pain. Your evolutionary inefficiencies are not the Concordat's concern. You will meet the new quota or your colony's status will be downgraded. Park restrains himself from intervening, knowing it would compromise the mission. But the interaction confirms what they've suspected. The Trevection alliance is built on exploitation rather than cooperation. When the team reconvenes in a secure maintenance shaft, each brings disturbing intelligence. The pattern is clear. The Trevections serve as advanced scouts and administrators for a larger interstellar entity called the Galactic Concordat, which maintains order through strictly enforced technological hierarchies. It's worse than we thought, Chen concludes after hearing their reports. This isn't just one aggressive species, it's an entire civilization built on subjugation of lesser worlds. Zhang presents the most critical finding. According to their historical archives, the Krell were indeed Trevexian client species. They were sent specifically to assess Earth for resource extraction 2 centuries ago. The implications are clear. Earth's first contact wasn't an anomaly. It was the beginning of a standard colonization process that was only interrupted because the Krell never returned to report. The communications center of Outpost Kelbrax operates with meticulous precision. Trevexian technicians move between crystalline terminals, coordinating information flow across dozens of star systems. None notice Commander Chen accessing a secure terminal in the southeast quadrant, her disguise holding under the occasional passing scan. The encryption is more complex than anticipated. She subvocalizes to her team through the quantum communicator embedded near her larynx. But the captured authorization codes are giving it access to the message queue system. From his position monitoring the entrance, Lieutenant Rivera responds, "Security rotation in 4 minutes. Whatever you're planning, make it fast." Chen's fingers dance across the alien interface, her mind applying linguistic patterns she spent years studying in theory. The terminal responds to her commands, opening pathways into the station's scheduled transmission protocols. "I'm creating a priority alert, supposedly from Captain Zarak," she explains as she works. "It needs to seem authentic enough to delay any immediate investigation of Earth, while buying us time to prepare." The fabricated message takes shape on her screen. Priority communication. Diplomatic mission Alpha 7. Authentication. Zarak 1142 Epsilon. Status. Observation protocol initiated. Initial assessment of designation P137 Earth indicates anomalous biological hazards requiring specialized containment protocols. Indigenous dominant species demonstrates unusual pathogenic resistance, suggesting evolutionary adaptation to high-violence environment. Recommendation: implement standard quarantine procedures. Dispatch scientific vessel for atmospheric and biological sampling from safe orbital distance. Direct contact inadvisable without comprehensive immunological preparation. Attached: atmospheric composition analysis, authentic but selectively edited data. Indigenous technology assessment, falsified to appear primitive. Mission continuing observation from minimum safe distance. Will maintain communication blackout until scientific vessel arrives to prevent potential contamination. End transmission. Clever. Commence Lieutenant Park through the comm link. You're using their own bureaucratic procedures against them. Every empire has its weaknesses. Chen responds, finalizing the transmission. Rigid hierarchies rely on properly filed reports. She embeds the message with Captain Zarak's actual authentication codes captured during the boarding operation. The system accepts the transmission, scheduling it for the next communication window to the Trevexian home system. Transmission accepted, Chen confirms. Now for Phase 2. While the majority of the team continues gathering intelligence, Lieutenant Zhang accesses the outpost's defense systems under the guise of a routine security audit. He doesn't sabotage them directly, that would trigger alarms, but instead subtly modifies the identification protocols to recognize the human vessels as friendly should they need to approach. The plan proceeds smoothly until an unexpected complication arises. A senior communications officer approaches Chen's terminal, chittering in the Trevexian command dialect. This station is reserved for priority dispatches, the officer states, compound eyes narrowing with suspicion. Your authorization. Chen presents the captured credentials, maintaining the perfect posture of a mid-level information specialist. Verification update for the diplomatic mission records by order of Central Command. The officer studies the credentials longer than comfortable before responding. Irregular procedure. Protocol dictates that mission updates are processed through primary channels. Chen feels a spike of adrenaline, but keeps her alien features impassive. The diplomatic vessel requested specialized security provisions due to the nature of their findings. I can contact your superior for clarification if you prefer. The implied threat of involving higher-ranking officials, a career risk in the rigidly hierarchical Trevection system, has the desired effect. The officer steps back, uncomfortable, but unwilling to challenge what appears to be proper authorization. Proceed, but log all modifications according to protocol. After the officer departs, Chen exhales slowly. That was close, she subvocalizes. Our window is narrowing. All teams prepare for extraction in 30 minutes. As they prepare to rendezvous, the station's alert level suddenly elevates. Emergency indicators flash at all junctions, and security personnel begin moving with increased urgency. What's happening? Rivera asks, watching the activity from his position. Ken checks a nearby information terminal and feels her heart sink. It's not about us. A rebellion has erupted in the Merendi system. Apparently, a subjugated species has attacked their Trevection administrators. The team exchanges glances, recognizing both the complication and opportunity this presents. Extraction route compromised. No, Chen decides after reviewing the security deployments. This works in our favor. They'll be focused outward, not on internal security. We proceed as planned, but stay alert. Calbrata's central spaceport teams with activity as Commander Chen's team disembarks from the commercial transport. The capital city sprawls before them. A breathtaking metropolis of crystalline towers and floating platforms connected by shimmering energy bridges. The 5 humans, disguised as various client species of the Trevection Empire, separate immediately according to plan. Chen, posing as a data analyst from the Merendi species, boards a public transit pod bound for the governmental district. The curved transparent vehicle glides silently along magnetic pathways, offering panoramic views of the alien city. Beings from dozens of worlds move through the streets below, all operating within the strict confines of the Concordat's caste system. Initial impressions of the capital are unexpected. Chen subvocalizes to her team. The architecture suggests a civilization that values aesthetics and harmony despite their exploitative policies. Cultural contradiction isn't unique to humans. Lieutenant Park responds from his position near the archives of encounters. Remember Earth's own empires, beautiful architecture built by slave labor. Ken exits at the Central Administration District, a complex of elegantly spiraling structures surrounding a vast plaza. At its center stands a monument depicting representatives of various species reaching upward toward a stylized representation of the stars. Propaganda masquerading as art, suggesting voluntary cooperation rather than enforced hierarchy. Security is omnipresent but subtle. Sensor arrays disguised as decorative elements scan passing citizens. Enforcement drones designed to resemble local fauna perch on buildings, their artificial eyes tracking movement patterns for anomalies. Chen approaches the archives of encounters, a repository of information about all species the Trevections have contacted. The building resembles a massive spiral shell rising 15 levels above the plaza. Its entrance is flanked by statues of the founding species of the Concordat, the Trevections prominently displayed at the center. Security scan at the entrance, Chen notes as she observes the checkpoint. biometric and psychological baselines being established for all visitors. Lieutenant Zhang, already inside disguised as a maintenance technician, responds, "The scanners are calibrated for known species." They're checking for emotional states associated with deception, not for disguises themselves. Ken modulates her breathing and heart rate, techniques developed specifically for this mission. The scanner bathes her in pale blue light as she passes through, then chimes with approval. She's granted access to the general archives, restricted to publicly available information about catalogued worlds. Moving through the circular hallways lined with data terminals, Chen navigates toward her true objective, the secure wing containing detailed assessment reports on worlds marked for integration. Security intensifies with each level she ascends, but her credentials continue to pass inspection. On the 7th level, she locates a private research alcove and inserts a specialized device, disguised as a standard Trevection data crystal, into the access port. The technology, reverse-engineered from the Krell ship captured centuries ago, bypasses security protocols and establishes a direct neural interface with the archive system. Information floods her consciousness. Thousands of worlds categorized and assessed for resources, strategic value, and ease of subjugation. The sheer scale of the Concordat's expansion is staggering. Hundreds of civilizations have been integrated over millennia, their resources extracted, their populations relegated to specialized roles within the hierarchy. She focuses her search on Earth's designation, P137, and finds the complete historical record. The first survey was conducted over 3 centuries ago by automated probes. Earth was flagged for its abundant biosphere and mineral resources, but deemed pre-technological and assigned low priority. 2 centuries later, a Krell scout ship was dispatched for preliminary assessment. The file contains a simple final entry: scout vessel lost, cause unknown, reassessment scheduled. Then Chen finds something unexpected, a report filed just weeks before the Trevection diplomatic mission arrived at Earth. Long-range scans had detected artificial satellites and atmospheric changes consistent with industrial development. Earth had been upgraded to emerging technological civilization status, requiring formal contact before resource extraction could begin. They were never interested in peaceful relations. Chen so vocalizes to her team. This was always about assessment for Conquest. The Nemesis slices through subspace at maximum velocity, its experimental drives pushed beyond design specifications. Warning indicators flash across engineering consoles as the structural integrity field strains to compensate. Admiral Quan studies the intelligence gathered by Commander Chen's team, her expression grim as the full scope of the threat comes into focus. The Concordat fleet will reach Earth in approximately 22 days, reports the tactical officer. 50 vessels, primarily cruiser class with dreadnought support. Quan nods, absorbing the information, and our current position. 17 days from Earth at current velocity. We're pushing the engines beyond safety parameters, but Chief Ramos believes they'll hold. Commander Chen, reunited with the flagship after the daring extraction from Kelbretta, reviews the tactical projections with the Admiral. Their infiltration mission had yielded critical intelligence, but had also accelerated the Concordat's response when their cover was blown during the final phase. We've initiated a war with a civilization spanning hundreds of worlds, Chen observes, studying the star chart marking Concordat territory. They initiated it when they attacked our diplomats, Quan corrects her. We're simply the first species to fight back effectively. The ship's quantum communication array activates, establishing a secure connection to Earth. Ambassador Reyes appears on the main display, her injured arm now fitted with an advanced prosthetic. Behind her stand representatives from Earth's Unified Defense Council. "Admiral, what's your assessment?" Rees asks without preamble. "The situation is critical, but not hopeless," Quan responds. "We've identified significant vulnerabilities in Concordat military systems. Their technological advantage is substantial, but they've grown complacent after centuries of unchallenged expansion." Commander Chen steps forward. Their ships utilize a standardized command and control network, highly efficient, but potentially vulnerable to targeted cyber attacks. More importantly, their tactical doctrine assumes technological superiority over opponents. They have no protocols for engaging an enemy with comparable capabilities. Reyes absorbs this information, her expression resolute. Earth is mobilizing all available resources. The secret fleet has been revealed to the public out of necessity. 20 vessels are being prepared for combat operations. 20 against 50, Quan calculates. Challenging odds, but not impossible given their vulnerabilities. The transmission continues with a detailed exchange of intelligence and strategic planning. When it concludes, Admiral Quan addresses her crew. "We face an enemy that believes itself invincible, that sees other species as resources rather than equals. For 2 centuries, humanity prepared for this moment in secret. Now, that preparation will be tested." As the Nemesis races homeward, the consequences of Commander Chen's infiltration ripple across Trevexian space. The information she had broadcast during their escape, revealing the Concordat's true intentions toward numerous worlds, has ignited unrest throughout the Empire. In the Morendi system, crystalline beings who had served as mineral processors for generations have sabotaged key extraction facilities. The amphibious Phaelix, long used as environmental engineers on terraforming projects, have seized control of atmospheric processors on 3 worlds. Most significantly, the avian Tresket, valued for their natural aptitude as pilots, have commandeered transport vessels and established blockades around critical supply routes. The Concordat Council convenes an emergency session in response to the spreading chaos. The chamber, a vast amphitheatre on Kelbrata, fills with representatives from the ruling species. The Trevexian High Commander addresses the assembly, his scales shifting to crimson with anger. The unregistered species from System 2831P has initiated a coordinated attack on Concordat stability, he declares. Not only have they infiltrated our secure facilities and stolen classified information, but they have deliberately incited rebellion among client species. A representative from one of the elder founding species, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical shell, responds with evident skepticism. One primitive world has accomplished this. Perhaps we should examine our own policies if our alliance is so easily destabilized. The debate grows heated, with factions forming between those advocating immediate military response and others suggesting diplomatic reassessment. In the end, military action prevails. Earth is officially designated a Level 1 threat requiring immediate containment. "We cannot allow this dangerous species to further contaminate galactic harmony," the High Commander concludes. "The response fleet will demonstrate the consequences of defying the natural order." The battle rages across the heliopause, the boundary where solar wind gives way to interstellar space. Human vessels dance through 3-dimensional space with unexpected agility, their maneuvers defying Concordat tactical predictions. Superheated plasma erupts as energy weapons connect with shields, briefly illuminating the darkness like miniature stars. On the bridge of the UAS Nemesis, Admiral Quan maintains her composure despite the chaos unfolding across tactical displays. Damage reports flood in from vessels across the human fleet. The destroyer Valiant breaks apart under concentrated fire from 3 Concordat cruisers. The frigate Defiant loses propulsion, but continues fighting with remaining weapons systems. Concordat forces are adapting to our attack patterns, reports Lieutenant Commander Rigi, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. Their command ships are implementing countermeasures against our cyber warfare. Quan nods, unsurprised. They're learning, but not quickly enough. She opens a fleet-wide channel. All vessels, execute maneuver Theta. Cyber warfare teams, switch to Protocol Omega-7. The human fleet responds with precision born of generations of preparation. Ships that seem to be in disorganized retreat suddenly pivot in coordinated sequence, catching pursuing Concordat vessels in a devastating crossfire. Meanwhile, the cyber attacks shift to a secondary protocol specifically designed to target propulsion systems rather than weapons. 3 more human vessels fall to enemy fire, their sacrifice buying crucial tactical advantages. The crews of disabled ships launch specialized boarding pods toward nearby Concordat vessels, turning their defeats into unexpected offensive opportunities. Aboard the Concordat flagship, the Trevection Admiral struggles to comprehend the human tactics. They fight with no regard for conventional doctrine, he tells his second-in-command. Each defeat becomes a new attack vector. Each destroyed vessel seeds new problems within our formation. They should have surrendered when faced with superior numbers. The officer responds, watching as another human ship sacrifices itself to disable 2 Concordat cruisers. This resistance is irrational. The Admiral studies the tactical display, a growing sense of unease taking hold. No, there's a pattern. They're not trying to win through conventional superiority. His compound eyes widen with sudden understanding. They're fighting to ensure no witnesses return. On the Nemesis, Admiral Quan receives the report she's been waiting for. Cyber teams have compromised the Concordat flagship's communication array. We have access to their fleet-wide broadcast system. Quan nods grimly. Send the prepared message on all channels. Throughout the Concordat fleet, communication systems activate without command. On every vessel, displays show the original Trevection attack on the human diplomatic delegation, followed by historical footage of the Krell incursions centuries earlier. The images are stark, undeniable evidence of unprovoked aggression. Admiral Quan's voice follows, transmitted in perfect Trevection. We offered peace. You chose war. We have a saying on Earth. No witnesses, no mercy. Today, you learn what this means. The message continues, addressing not just the Trevections, but all species serving aboard Concordat vessels. To those pressed into service by the Concordat, we fight not against you, but against the system that subjugated you. Disable your weapons, and you will not be harmed. Continue fighting for your oppressors, and you share their fate. Throughout the Concordat fleet, confusion spreads. On several vessels, client species turn against their Trevection commanders. Others simply cease fighting, their weapons falling silent as they process the implications of the human message. The Trevection Admiral watches his unified command structure crumble. They've turned our own forces against us. He realizes too late. They've been studying us all along. As the battle reaches its climax, Admiral Quan stands on her bridge, surveying the cost of victory. 13 human warships destroyed or disabled, thousands of lives lost. But the Concordat fleet lies in ruins, 37 vessels destroyed, disabled, or captured, with the remainder retreating in disarray. Send word to Earth, she orders quietly. The doctrine has served its purpose. No witnesses to our capabilities escaped. No mercy was shown to those who threatened our existence. But now we need something new for the path ahead.